Hebrews 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Romans 12, verse 2. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Luke 14, verse 26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Luke 9, verses 61 and 62. Still another said, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Jesus replied, No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Matthew 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Luke 9, verses 57 and 58. As they were walking along the road, a man said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Last week, when we were talking about small beginnings, I mentioned in passing that there are things we must lay aside or give up entirely if we are going to follow God, grow in our relationship with God, and live out the calling that He's placed on our lives. And so today I wanted to read you this collection of verses which describe the kinds of encumbrances, the kinds of things which we must lay aside. These encumbrances block our journey with God. They block our relationship with God. They confuse us. They distract us. Hebrews 12:1 and Romans 12:2 talk about laying aside encumbrance and sin and not conforming to this world. The pattern of this world is really based in ego, based in evil, and you can see that the status quo of how people behave and interact and operate come from attitudes of resentment, unforgiveness, self-righteous anger, complaining, gossip, needing to be right or prove a point, condescension. This world encourages us to take on certain identities which are false, such as being the victim, being the rescuer, being completely self-sufficient, not needing anybody, not needing God, doing it my way. All of these are encumbrances to following God, and ultimately they are encumbrances to our own freedom and joy, because the path that God has for us, the calling that He's placed on our lives, is the path that leads to our greater freedom and joy. And so when we act as the world acts, and we maintain these poor habits of emotion and character and attitude and behavior, it increases our suffering and the suffering of others. And it stalls us in our journey with God. The next verses from Luke that I read today, I chose because they can be quite difficult initially to approach. This idea of hating our family or turning away from family. My understanding is that the way that we use the word hate in English now conveys a deep negative emotion, malice, loathing, anger, a desire for vengeance and retribution. But that is not how the word was used when this verse was written. So, hate in the context of these verses in Luke is about ranking. It's about priority. So when we are asked to hate our family, it doesn't mean we feel malice and loathing towards them. It means that they are not number one priority because God is our number one priority. So we have ranked God first. God is the one who sits on the throne of our heart and directs our life. This is particularly helpful and healing for those of us who grew up in dysfunctional families, who experienced a lot of trauma, who have spent many years recovering from complex trauma. This word that God gives us is permission to let go of the hold that family expectations and family patterns have had over us. This verse tells us that no, family should not be sitting on the throne of my heart. Their expectations of my loyalty and how I live out my life and what my duties are with respect to the family culture, none of that should be the thing that's sitting on the throne of my heart. I get to turn to God as my master, as my waymaker, as the power that I turn to for guidance and direction and for instruction of what choices to make, how to grow my character, what behaviors and habits to grow in my life, what to let go of. So this can actually be quite a healing passage for us, which is not maybe what it looks like when you first glance at it and you see, oh, I'm meant to hate my family. But actually, it's very powerful. It gives us instruction on how to not make family an idol. And an idol is just anything that I put ahead of God. So a sense of loyalty and duty and feeling beholden to family can be an encumbrance to following God if I have made an idol out of my family. A third type of encumbrance is distractions, and these come in every variety that you can think of. The same verse that we read in Luke chapter 9, verses 61 and 62 applies here. The example given in that verse is about a man who's plowing and wants to turn back and say goodbye to a family member. And the idea is that, when you're plowing, if you turn away from the plow and the straight line you're plowing, your line is going to go askew, your plow line. It's not possible to plow a straight line and turn away and do something else at the same time. So certainly we can be distracted by family, but I think the verse holds larger implications, that anything in our life that causes to look away from the straight path that we're walking with God can cause us to go askew, to go off the path. These distractions could be any relationships in our life. It could just be over-involvement in other people's lives, people that we love and we want to serve and be generous to and show up for, but we have become over-involved in their lives to the point of being distracted from our own path. It could be a gossipy friend that calls you and is happy to waste hours of your time on the phone talking about other people's business. It could be scrolling on your screens aimlessly. It could be compulsive shopping. It could be an obsession of some kind, obsessing over finding a romantic partner. Another distraction that God has brought to my attention is misprioritizing the tasks of the day. So even though I may have my priority list of, here are the most important things to attend to tomorrow when I get up, and I have my list of 2 or 3 things, when I wake up in the morning, it's so easy to become derailed and distracted because I look around me and there's all kinds of tasks that need my attention, not just the top priorities. And it can be easy to get drawn into attending to those other things first and being distracted by them, whether it's attending to chores or an unexpected phone call, or even seeing voicemails on your phone and feeling like, oh, I gotta return these calls, or checking my email first. That's not a great way to start the day, right? The world wants our attention. There's always going to be other things around us that want our attention. And it takes discipline and a conscious choice to instead place my attention on God and look at the list of priorities He's given me and make a decision to start my day with the things God has told me are the priorities, and to trust that there will be time enough to take care of the other things. Somehow there always is. Somehow it seems like a miracle to me. I don't know how it works, but somehow when I place God's priorities first in my day and attend to those tasks, inevitably there's enough time later in the day to do the cooking, to do the chores, to take care of other things, to return voicemails, to respond to emails, and to be responsible. So think about what are distractions in your day and in your life that are actually an encumbrance to you walking your path with God. The 4th type of encumbrance is idolatry. And we read Matthew 6, verse 24, where it talks about money, that we cannot serve both God and money. And so the idea is that if I make an idol out of money, if money becomes the driving motivator in my life, then all of my decisions and behaviors become shaped by master money instead of being shaped by God. But there are so many other things that we can make idols in our life. People, careers, prestige, accolades, almost anything in our human life can be made into an idol. All it takes is placing something on the throne of our hearts before God. So I invite you to consider today if there is something that you have placed on the throne of your heart that isn't God, and go to God with that thing and surrender it, and He will help relieve you of that bondage. He will help break that wrong attachment in His love and in His might and in His glory. He will do it beautifully for you and in you and help you become free. The 5th form of encumbrance. This one's really interesting. I'm still kind of absorbing the implications of this. And it's Luke 9, verses 57 and 58 that we read today. And that verse talks about somebody asking to follow Jesus, and Jesus saying basically that he doesn't have a home to sleep in. His ministry is a traveling ministry. And so if this person wants to join him, then they're going to have to be willing to give up the comfort of a fixed dwelling place. The way that I understand this is that, yes, it may be that from time to time God asks me to give up my actual physical home or to move locations to somewhere that I didn't intend to move to or I didn't want to move to. Or He might ask me to go out on the road with some kind of a ministry and trust Him to make provision along the road for me, to take care of me. And so in that sense, I need to be willing to give up the comfort of my home. But I also think this verse has broader implications. Is comfort and what is familiar to me in my life an encumbrance to my walk with God? That could be anything in my life that I take comfort in. Have I become so attached to certain comforts and habits and familiar patterns in my life that I have stepped off the path with God? or I'm no longer willing to take the next step with God because I've become so secure and comfortable where I am in this season. It's been my experience that before God invites me into the next season of my life, that I will be asked to let go of many things that are comfortable and familiar and have been nourishing for a previous season. And oftentimes I have to let go of those comforts and experience a space of openness, emptiness, detachment before God brings the new things in the new season that will nourish me in a new way. I have to be willing to step into the discomfort of the empty space. And I can't do that without God. It would be far too disorienting and frightening to let go of what is safe and familiar and to step out into a blank space, into the unknown, without God. So I can only do it with God. But it's been my experience that God is always there waiting with the next provision. I just have to be willing to let go of what is comfortable and familiar. So this verse invites us to ask, is there something in my life that is very comfortable and very familiar that I have been living in or living with or habitually doing that is actually an encumbrance to my walk with God? It's not a sin, but it's an encumbrance. These verses are really ministering to me right now, and I hope that they help you too. We looked at 5 things today, just to summarize. The first are wrong beliefs, identities, and attachments. The second is loyalties and duties that are imposed upon us by family or the world. The third is distractions of every variety. The fourth is idols. And the fifth is comfort and familiarity. I hope this blesses you. I love you, God loves you, and I'll see you next time.